Well, here we are in America. I know it was a long transatlantic flight for us to get here, but I really hope you enjoyed the virtual first class that I set up for you on the flight. It was absolutely amazing. I have to be honest with you that it's a little bit painful for me doing this American visit today because we were actually due to fly out to America for 3 weeks at the beginning of July, and boys, we'd been looking forward to it for so long. Well, we've just got to make the best of what we have, don't we? America is a wide and varied country. It has 50 states, and so many of those states seem to be so vastly different to the other ones. It has a population of 328 million people, which makes it the third most populated country in the world. Of course, it is the wealthiest country in the world as well. After the Second World War, it emerged as the global superpower that it still is today. Well, at that time, there were the two global superpowers. There was Russia and there was America. But since the space race, it's really just America today. Well, without any further ado, let's visit a couple of places today, and we'll save another couple to visit tomorrow. So where are we going to go first? Well, let's take a wee tour into New York City. Come with me while we go to see the Statue of Liberty. Come on, let's go. Isn't it absolutely spectacular? What an amazing place the Statue of Liberty is. I don't know if you've ever seen it in real life or not, but I can just about remember seeing it way back in 1978, whenever my parents took me to America then. She stands 305 feet high. It's actually possible to get up inside the Statue of Liberty, and there's the part at the top there, and you're able to go up and look out the windows. Of course, you're not able to go up at the minute because of COVID-19. And at one time, you were able to go right up into her arm that holds the torch in it, and you were able to walk around the torch, but they haven't allowed you to do that since 1910. The Statue of Liberty was a gift to the American people from the French way back in 1880. Interestingly, the metal framework at the center of the statue was designed by Gustave Eiffel, famous, of course, for the Eiffel Tower in Paris. The sculpture is called Libertas, a robed liberty goddess. And in her right hand, you see the torch that stands above her head, and inside that is this walkway right around it, I should say. And then in her left hand, you find the Tabula Ansata, which is a book with tabs on either side. And it has a date placed on that book. And it is the 4th of July, 1776. And that was the date of the American independence from the United Kingdom. Down at the feet of the statue, you will find broken shackles and a chain. And you see, for many, the Statue of Liberty was their first sight of freedom. For them, it was the beginning of a new life. It was the opportunity to put all of the old stuff behind them and move forward. The Statue of Liberty speaks about freedom, but also, as the tablet in her hand refers to, it speaks about independence. We fight for independence, don't we? We fight for it with tooth and nail from our earliest days. To be independent from our parents, to be independent from our teachers, to be independent from our bosses later on in life, to be independent from rules. We want to do our own thing when we want, how we want. We don't want to have anybody dictating to us. But the problem is that the Bible tells us that we are born as slaves to sin. And we cannot make ourselves free. Even the good things we do as unbelievers, well, they're all tainted by sin because we're doing them for selfish purposes, either because it makes us feel better or it makes us look good or it helps our family and in turn helps us. And so even the good things we do as unbelievers are for a selfish purpose. And the simple reason for that is because we haven't surrendered our lives to God through Jesus Christ. And therefore everything in our lives is going to be about us until we trust in Christ and we make it about Him. You see, Jesus died to pay the price so we could be free. That's why Jesus came. And here's how Paul puts it in Galatians 5, verse 1. For freedom, Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Okay, let's leave the Statue of Liberty and let's jump on another plane and head over to the Sunshine State where we were meant to be going in July. Okay, let's jump on the plane. Welcome to Cape Kennedy Space Station. I can remember being here with my parents back in 1991, the second time that I'd been in America. And it was absolutely staggering to see the rockets that propelled man from Earth all the way up to the moon. And it was amazing to think of all that happened back then. The space race that America and Russia were particularly involved with. Back in September 1962, President John F. Kennedy, very much aware of Russia's progress, and initially they were ahead in the space race, made one of his most famous speeches. The speech that today is referred to as "We Choose to Go to the Moon." It was a stirring and inspiring speech, and it launched America into the space race, a race that would end with the first man to step on the moon. I remember the latter days of the space race myself, days whenever we sat and watched people walking on the moon, days whenever we watched the space shuttle leave Earth. And I can remember being in primary school and our teacher taking us into the assembly hall, and together we sat down and we watched the space shuttle take off for the first time. And we remember seeing the Columbia disaster and how our hearts sank with that. But back in those days, we thought that man could go just about anywhere. We saw space to be that new frontier. Those were exciting days. And in Kennedy's speech, he declared, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." Now, I was never a particularly good student. I was interested in cars, and I read car magazines voraciously, and I memorized the statistics. I hated maths and chemistry and geography and history. Well, in the last one, quite frankly, I just saw no future in it. But I can still remember my mum coming to my room and sticking a little motto on the wall above my desk, and it said this: "Don't say I can't, say I can if I try hard enough." I don't know if she wrote the speeches for John F. Kennedy or whether John F. Kennedy wrote that motto for her. But that very much was the thought back in those days. Try hard enough and you can achieve anything. I suppose that pretty much sums up what has been historically referred to as the great American dream. It doesn't matter what your life is like. Just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and make something of yourself. But the problem is, as far as spiritual matters are concerned, no matter how hard we try, we just cannot save ourselves. The prophet Isaiah tells it to us in this way, that all of our righteousness is like filthy rags. And yet Paul says in Galatians 4, verse 13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And how is this? Well, if you look at that passage in Galatians 4, you discover that Paul has been sharing with his readers about what his life is like. And he says that at times he has known what it is to have plenty, and at other times he has known what it's like to have nothing. That at times he has known what it's like to have it easy, and known sometimes what it's like to have it tough. And Paul is saying that his happiness is based not on these external things that surround him, but it's based on the internals of knowing that all is well in his soul. You see, what gave Paul confidence was that he could handle anything at all, even death itself, because of the grace that he had received through faith, through Jesus Christ. How do you deal with hard times? How do you handle problems? How do you deal with the uncertainty of life at this time? Because none of us knows how this all is going to pan out. But yet, Paul was confident that no matter what he dealt with, that he could handle all things through Jesus Christ. Get back to our hotel tonight. Have a good night's sleep, because we'll have a busy day tomorrow. Night-night.